Stop everything you're doing immediately and pay close attention, because the information I'm about to share has the power to completely shift your perspective on the realities of modern conflict. Ukraine has just introduced a capability that the Pentagon itself has not yet managed to field. A breakthrough so clever and so damaging to Russian drone campaigns that it's altering the course of the entire war as we watch in real time. An airborne platform built to launch interceptor drones. A basic utility plane that has been cleverly repurposed into a soaring defense hub capable of releasing drones while airborne to hunt down and eliminate opposing unmanned aerial systems before they can close in on their intended goals. This isn't some Hollywood invention. This is taking place right now, and Russia possesses no meaningful way to counter it. This is your host at Global Truth Pulse, and while my usual work centers on dissecting the tangled world of international politics and empowering you to cut through the chaos of global events, today I want to unpack a striking military advance that reveals the sort of adaptability and sharp strategy that separates the victors from those left behind in any intense competition, whether it's across the battlefield or in your own efforts to thrive amid uncertainty. Because the essential ideas driving Ukraine's solution connect directly to how you can confront the obstacles in your daily path. Stop wasting your resources, embrace fresh thinking, and fully optimize everything you already possess. But first, if this kind of breakdown is delivering real value for you, be sure to subscribe to Global Truth Pulse and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the key perspectives we're delivering in this session. Now, let me walk you back to the origins of this development. It begins with an aircraft that most armed forces around the globe would likely dismiss without giving it a second look. The Antonov An-28, not some sleek fighter jet, not a high-tech strike platform, just a twin-engine light turboprop transport plane that first took to the skies all the way back in 1969. For decades upon decades, this aircraft has performed exactly the job it was created for, moving passengers, freight, and supplies from one spot to the next. It's fairly dated, it's fairly compact, it's not particularly swift, and it certainly was not engineered with any combat role in mind. Close to 200 of these aircraft were produced over the years, but today barely more than a dozen remain in active use. Some are still flying commercial routes in Russia, Armenia, and Tajikistan. A small number reportedly continue in military roles in Georgia, Tanzania, and Ukraine. The vast majority of armed forces worldwide would see no practical purpose in a plane like this at all. But Ukraine operates differently from typical armed forces, and that is the vital point to grasp here. Ukraine doesn't simply shelve older equipment just because of its age, or what appears to be limited worth. Instead, it hunts for hidden value where others overlook it entirely. It constantly innovates with creative perspectives, always on the lookout for opportunities to squeeze every bit of potential from the vehicles and tools already at hand. Ukraine has established a new global standard, perhaps as the most inventive fighting force in contemporary history, transforming what looks like scrap into game-changing capabilities. And it pursues this not necessarily by choice, but out of necessity. Because Ukraine is locked in struggle against a vastly larger adversary with vastly superior resources. Russia fields more tanks, more armored vehicles, more missiles, more bombs, more drones, more troops than Ukraine could ever assemble. And when you're facing an opponent on that scale, you cannot afford to discard a single asset. You must innovate relentlessly if survival is the goal. So when most countries examine the Antonov An-28, they see nothing more than a dull old transport plane. When Ukraine studies it, however, it sees a rich source of untapped opportunity. Ukrainian engineers recognized that through some targeted modifications and upgrades, it could evolve into a critical asset in the ongoing effort to neutralize Russia's drone swarms. In February 2026, we received our first real glimpse at what an upgraded An-28 was truly capable of delivering. Video footage surfaced via the French television network TF1, which captured one of these aircraft during an active nighttime combat operation. While the standard An-28 design carried no weapons or armaments whatsoever, this enhanced version had been fitted with its very own six-barreled Gatling-style 7.62mm M134 minigun secured directly at the cabin door. Let me clarify exactly what that involves. This minigun can unleash between 3,000 and 6,000 rounds per minute. That's 50 to 100 rounds every single second. It boasts a solid record of proven performance in air operations. It was standard issue on the AC-47 Spooky gunships. It was traditionally used to engage ground targets. But in the An-28, Ukraine had an entirely different objective in view: Russian drones. And here's what stands out as remarkable. It delivers results. The footage broadcast on French television revealed that beneath the An-28's cockpit sat 115 painted silhouettes of Shahed or Garand-style long-range attack drones. Each one marked a verified elimination. 2 of those silhouettes were painted yellow, which could point to an even higher tally of successful engagements. The news segment indicated that the An-28 and its 4-person crew had neutralized nearly 150 drones overall at the moment of filming. But here's what elevates this achievement to another level. These aren't seasoned career soldiers with extensive combat backgrounds. These are everyday civilians who have volunteered to climb into the skies and put everything on the line to safeguard their homeland. Every single launch could mark their final mission. Because the An-28 was never built for warfare, and especially not for 21st century warfare, featuring hypersonic missiles and kamikaze UAVs capable of destroying aircraft like this in the blink of an eye. It would take only one well-placed Russian cruise missile or drone strike to send this aircraft plummeting, and Russia keeps raising the stakes. In early 2026, reports emerged that the Kremlin was arming their drones with fresh additions, including man-portable air defense systems and R-60 air-to-air missiles, rendering them even more dangerous than before. The newest waves of drones are also receiving self-protection upgrades, improving their chances of surviving in the air. But Russia is not the only side advancing. Ukraine is improving its own systems as well. The addition of a minigun represented only the initial step. Now the An-28 has been elevated into something far more advanced, an interceptor drone launch platform. This breakthrough was highlighted in a video released in April 2026 by Ukrainian pilot and volunteer Timur Fradkov, who has a track record of highlighting some of Ukraine's most impressive aviation developments. The video demonstrates that the An-28 has been equipped with underwing hardpoints, carrying 2 different types of interceptor drones, the Skyfall P-1 Sun and the MAROPS AS-3 Surveyor. Let me outline what each one contributes. The P-1 Sun ranks among the most widely used and effective interceptor drones in the Ukrainian arsenal. Shaped nearly like a bullet with a modular 3D printed airframe, it can hit peak cruise speeds of about 300 kilometers per hour, that's 185 miles per hour, but is able to travel considerably faster when necessary, with a maximum speed of about 450 kilometers per hour or 280 miles per hour. That's fast enough to overtake and neutralize nearly any UAV Russia puts into the air. Here's the economic reality that makes this approach so brilliant. Each P-1 Sun costs roughly $1,000 to produce, and they're being deployed to destroy Russian drones valued at $20,000, $30,000, or even $50,000 apiece. Skyfall reports it can manufacture up to 50,000 of these interceptors every single month. That would deliver a tremendous edge for Ukraine's defensive posture moving forward, particularly when paired with innovative new platforms like the An-28 for launching them. The other drone mounted on the platform is the MAROPS AS-3 Surveyor. Like the P-1 Sun, it's another compact and reasonably priced drone, created to seek out and destroy other UAVs in the air before they stand any chance of reaching their targets. However, while the P-1 Sun focuses on smaller and cheaper Russian drones, the AS-3 was engineered for more demanding threats. It was developed by the California-based company Perennial Autonomy, and it offers an operational range of up to 12.5 miles. That's 20 kilometers, with the capacity to reach maximum speeds of around 175 miles per hour. It can be operated manually or allowed to function fully autonomously with an AI system, steering its every decision and onboard sensors aiding in target recognition and tracking. Each unit carries a 2 kilograms explosive warhead and can neutralize its targets either by direct impact or by detonating its payload while in close range. Ukraine has been operating the MAROPS system since 2024, and some units have been provided to U.S. NATO allies like Poland and Romania as part of Operation Eastern Sentry to reinforce defenses along the alliance's eastern flank. According to the U.S. Army, each AS-3 costs around $15,000, though this could fall to as low as $3,000 if production is expanded and refined. Now, here's where matters become particularly compelling. The April 2026 footage of the An-28 captures these interceptors in live combat conditions. We see the plane's crew detect and verify a hostile drone in the vicinity. Then they launch one of their P-1 Suns. The interceptor accelerates straight toward its target, detonating nearby to blast it from the sky, all within mere seconds. Fradkov, the pilot who shared the footage, confirms in the caption that aircraft-launched P-1 Sun interceptors have already demonstrated effectiveness in real-world combat scenarios. He adds this crucial observation. We have also evaluated several other interceptor drones during training flights. You could think of it as a low-cost air-to-air missile. Fradkov also notes that as of April, the An-28 had accounted for 222 Russian drones using its minigun alone, and now it has the capacity to eliminate hundreds more thanks to this vital enhancement. Because the ability to launch drones from an aircraft provides enormous advantages for Ukraine on multiple levels. First, the An-28 can position interceptors much closer to their targets than ground launches would allow. Normally, these drones would have to be released from the ground, consuming time, ascending several thousand feet into the sky just to match the altitude of their targets. And when you're attempting to intercept relatively small UAVs traveling at hundreds of kilometers per hour, time is absolutely decisive. Every single second is critical, so the more time you can save, the more effective your interceptors become. That's why air launches matter so much. Using data supplied by ground-based air traffic control teams, the An-28 crew can head to areas where Russian drones have been identified and release interceptors from the shortest possible distances. Once they're freed from the An-28's hardpoints, these drones may only need to spend a matter of seconds aloft before engaging enemy UAVs. The second major advantage involves extended loiter time. Interceptor drones are swift, inexpensive, and effective at inflicting damage, but they're not strong when it comes to staying power. Many can only remain aloft for a few minutes, covering limited distances before exhausting their power. That means Ukraine cannot simply release its interceptors and let them hover in the air for minutes or hours awaiting enemy UAVs to arrive in the area. They can only launch them when they're certain the enemy is active nearby. And as soon as each drone is away, a countdown begins ticking rapidly, giving the interceptor only a short window to locate, lock onto, and catch its target. The An-28 offers a completely different capability. This isn't a low-cost drone. It's a robust utility aircraft with substantial fuel capacity capable of conducting fairly prolonged missions. It can remain in the air for hours at a stretch, allowing it to perform persistent anti-drone patrols over strategic locations. Ukraine can deploy an An-28 above critical infrastructure, where it can spend extended periods scanning its surroundings, ready to react instantly at the first hint of danger, and provide a reliable deterrent against Russian threats. Another advantage of this setup is the wide array of armaments it can support. Even though the An-28 was never intended for combat, Ukraine has made the necessary adjustments to convert it into an airborne drone interceptor platform with multiple hardpoints that could accommodate various types of drones, guns, and possibly even rockets. This would allow Kyiv's forces to more effectively address a broader variety of enemy threats. In other words, even if Russia decreases its use of Shaheds and shifts to drones with different sizes, speeds, or flight patterns, Ukraine should in theory be able to continue neutralizing them successfully. The An-28 also possesses a unique feature that makes it ideally suited for this mission: its short takeoff and landing capability. This essentially means it can operate from very short runways, unprepared landing strips, or other confined spaces, requiring far less distance to take off and land than conventional aircraft. That is significant because when Ukraine is managing Russian drone threats across its entire territory, it doesn't always enjoy the luxury of relying on large airports with extended runways. Instead, it frequently has to maximize basic short takeoff areas and makeshift landing strips. It needs aircraft that can adapt to those limitations. Fortunately, the An-28 handles that perfectly. And here's the crucial context. Russia's production facilities are beginning to output drones in ever greater quantities. They've already hit rates of around 5,000 Shahed or Garand drones each month, with plans to nearly triple that figure. Ukraine cannot depend on traditional methods to counter drones in such volumes. There's no logic in expending million-dollar air defense missiles to eliminate drones that cost $50, zero or less, and can be mass-produced with such ease. Instead, Kyiv's defenders have had to develop alternative approaches. It's thanks to that creativity that they've built one of the most powerful, integrated, and multi-layered air defense networks on Earth. It's not just the usual radars and air defense missile batteries. It's a diverse range of cheaper and more practical solutions. Mobile ground units, AI-powered turrets, directed energy weapons, and of course, interceptor drones as well. The role of interceptors is expanding daily, as they prove to be perhaps the single most cost-effective means of countering Moscow's drones. They may not feature massive or precision guidance systems like world-class surface-to-air missiles, but they don't need to. Their single purpose is to take out other UAVs, and they've performed an outstanding job of that so far. What's more, they're not just significantly cheaper than conventional air defenses. They're simpler to produce and deploy in large numbers, which allows them to safeguard wider areas. This enables Ukraine to hold its more expensive, high-end missiles in reserve and only use them when required to counter enemy missiles or aircraft, for example. Given everything outlined, it's hardly surprising that Kyiv is placing enormous emphasis on expanding and diversifying its interceptor drone fleet. Fielding an increasingly varied range of models, each with its own technical specifications and capabilities. From the bullet-like P-1 Sun and Strela to the quadrotor-style 08, which uses advanced AI to hunt and destroy Shaheds without the need for any manual piloting whatsoever. Through innovations like the An-28, Ukraine is also varying the ways it employs these drones, no longer limiting them to ground launches, but also deploying them from midair. And it's easy to picture how the country's military could advance this concept even further. It's already employing mothership-style drones, larger drones that can carry and release smaller ones in contested airspace. They could theoretically adapt other aircraft, such as transport helicopters and Yakovlev Yak-52 trainer aircraft, to also carry and launch P-1 Suns and MAROPS AS-3s in the future. Light aircraft and helicopters are already reported to be responsible for eliminating up to 12% of all Russian drones. If they were upgraded with their own mini-interceptor swarms, that figure would inevitably begin to increase. It remains to be seen how extensively Ukraine develops this idea, but the An-28 stands as clear proof that it succeeds. What once looked like an old, ordinary, completely harmless aircraft has been transformed into a drone-launching platform of real destructive power. Another vital component in the increasingly sophisticated air defense network safeguarding Ukraine's skies, its civilians and critical infrastructure. Another demonstration of the country's extraordinary talent for spotting what others miss, for attempting what others would never consider, and for innovating in the most unexpected yet impactful ways, securing those small but decisive advantages over its larger opponent. The lesson here reaches far beyond the battlefield. This is about resourcefulness. This is about recognizing potential where others see only waste. This is about rejecting imposed limitations and instead forging creative solutions. Whether you're managing your health as you age, building a business, or defending a nation, the principle remains unchanged. Maximize what you have, think creatively, and never underestimate the strength of innovation. If you're finding this analysis valuable, subscribe to Global Truth Pulse right now and enable notifications so you don't miss our next in-depth exploration of military strategy and geopolitical developments that could shape your world. You can explore another example of Ukraine's military innovations in our recent coverage of the so-called Kremlin killer missile that is sending ripples of concern through the leadership of Russian President Vladimir Putin himself, or to see how Kyiv's tactics are proving overwhelming for Russia to manage. Check out our analysis of Ukraine's covert strategy to dismantle its enemy's missile supplies and launch platforms, leaving Moscow completely exposed for what lies ahead. And if you haven't already, make absolutely certain to subscribe to Global Truth Pulse today for more insights, analysis, and military news reports you won't want to miss. Because in a world that's evolving faster than ever, staying informed isn't just an option, it's essential.